Why does the past always seem like it's better? Why can't we make it last forever? I'ma wake up with an alibi.
All right, everyone, welcome back to the CQQC podcast. This is episode 2 of season 2, and we're getting going again with our second season. So our first, or I guess it's our second episode. This season is going to be kind of based off of a really cool thing we saw, or Bryan specifically saw on Vine. I guess we should introduce ourselves too.
Vine. What year is this?
So I got a little excited with the episode. So this was an idea that Bryan saw on TikTok. We all thought was pretty cool. We're gonna kind of relate it more to quidditch. So I don't know, Bryan, if you want to quickly run down how it works or what you saw on Vine.
Yeah, sure. So for the record, Gabe, it's TikTok. We got to remember what year this is in.
Oh, TikTok.
TikTok,
Jeez,
man.
yeah,
Come on. We gotta engage with all the
U's,
U's, right? It's all about the U's nowadays. So I think in basketball, one of the things that I always hear argued about is like, who's the greatest of all time? Who's the GOAT? Who's this? And you can't break it down into like, this person's the best in everything, because no one is the best player in every single category. Some players excel in this way, and that's how they play their game, and that's why they're great. Some players play in a different way, and that's why they're great as well. So basically what we're going to be going through, at least for this episode, is keepers. So we basically identified, it looks like 8 big categories for keepers. So leadership, how does that keeper basically run their field, run their team when they're on the pitch, assuming they are the central point of leadership on the field, in the quaffle game at least. Passing, so pretty self-explanatory, how they pass the ball, how do they utilize their teammates and make key decisions to score. Close range shots, so basically we're defining this as anything right around the hoop, so being able to dunk, power through, just put your hand through. Mid-range shots is anything still within the keeper zone, but not directly within arm's reach of the hoops. And then long-range shots is basically anything outside the keeper zone where you actually have to make a legitimate throw. And yeah. Then the 3 last categories we have are team defense, so how you actually lead your team on the field in a defensive way, and how you interact with the other players. Individual defense, how you actually play defense for yourself and how you're like tackling, how your positioning is, and how your individual attributes one-on-one match up versus the person you are guarding. And last but not least, clutch. So clutch is a term that we've heard in sports and in every facet of this person's clutch, they make the shots when they need them. This person's clutch, if they found a way to change the momentum of the game. This is kind of more almost a wild card, but it's how you define how that person really shows up in the big moments and is that impact player for that team. So with that being said, we'll start off with leadership. So I'll start it off. I went with 2 actual candidates for this, and I'm not really going to decide in between because I think they both lend themselves to this kind of category well. But Ryan Yee from University of Guelph and Lydia Reed from Queens. So with Lydia Reed, at least, in my mind, she is probably the best female keeper in the league. And we are going to keep this the last 2 years, just for simplicity's sake, just so we're not dating ourselves for how many years back. And the game has changed, obviously, so we don't want to make this big fuss. But in the last 2 years, honestly, Lydia Reed has stepped up as probably, in my opinion, the best female keeper in Canada, and really puts forth, like, every play she's on, she's showing up, she's making big plays, she puts it all out there on the field, and I think every time I've seen other people play with her, they're like, yeah, I'm ready to go, I'm ready to do it, because if Lydia's doing it, I can do it without a doubt. Like, we're all, like, they're there to follow Lydia, and Lydia puts that example forward. As far as Ryan Yee, the guy has been, I think, head coach now. This would have been his 3rd season, I believe, as head coach of University of Guelph Griffins. Guelph has been a powerhouse, flat out. They've won 2 regionals now. They've been in the finals for nationals. They're, in my opinion, they were the favorites for nationals this past year. And honestly, if this year was happening with COVID not being around, honestly, I think they'd be competing for that top spot again. What do you guys have?
So I went with a different couple people. I went with Atana Crow and Kyle Ross. I've played with Kyle at Queens for 3.5 seasons, and then with the Manatees for the last season that took place. Both like a good leader, both on and off the pitch. Like he's really good at keeping everyone in check and tune of the game, like knowing like depending on how the game was going and like the opponents we're playing against, he's able to kind of give us some insight on what to expect on the pitch, kind of where to place ourselves. He's really good at strategizing on the fly too, or within timeouts, depending on how the momentum of the game is going. And he's also a really good keeper as well, and he's able to use his on-pitch skills to kind of lead by example in that way. Then with Atana, I haven't played with him, but through the what's it called again? During the summer with the TC East, TC West,
Pan Am competition.
Pan Am games, yeah. So I was able to kind of play under his leadership a bit, and he's really good at just keeping everyone in tune, keeping everyone in check. Really good at just knowing, like understanding the game of Quidditch, being able to adjust to in-game situations on the fly, whether he's playing as keeper or even as a coach. And so yeah, I feel like with those two players on the pitch, like you're confident in their abilities to keep everyone in line, lead by example, and just make sure everyone's like enjoying themselves and understand what their job is on the pitch.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I had the exact same. I had the exact same too. Tana and Kyle. But I had a third one as well. I'll shout out Cody Rennick. So obviously we all had a chance to play with him with Ottawa Waters. And I don't know. Some like for me, leadership is really dependent on like kind of who you are as an individual, and everyone has different leadership styles. And I did like Kyle as a leader when he was a captain and played under him at Queens. But I also did really kind of gel well with Cody's leadership style because when we had them on like the very first episode, I remember they're like, and even just like talking to him before and after, like Cody, when I say that, Cody and Mo, but like the two of them, they were just saying like how like because we wanted to bring them on originally as like because we thought they were really good leaders of the team and whatnot, and they said, well, we didn't really do anything. We just kind of like said, okay, just let's do this. Let's like what was this? I can't even remember what was saying again. Like do cool shit or something like that. Like
Yeah,
simple. Like, yeah. Like they honestly just kind of like we had a really good team and they just said, look, listen, we know we have a good team and let's just go out there and do it. Like they didn't really have to say much, and I kind of like that about them. They weren't like kind of like a dictatorship type leadership, I guess. Especially from Cody, like he led by example. He literally like shed blood for us, like
broken nose.
Yeah, the broken nose with the house. So I don't know. Like just to me that like I think their actions speak louder than words a lot of times, and I think Cody was a great example of that. So I'd have him in one of my top leaders as well.
Awesome. I also want to say like with I was gonna say with both your picks, I guess for Kyle and Atana, I think I would add those two are two just absolute students of the game. I work with them on gameplay, and like the amount of hypothetical situations we play out when we're trying to come up with adjustments for rules or how can we fix things or how can we improve things for gameplay, the amount of things and how they study and think about the game really shows not just in how they lead, but how dedicated they are to the game. And I think that really shines through when you play with them. Awesome. Next up, this one, I'm going to keep it real short, but passing. Passing is pretty simple, but it's pretty instrumental to every aspect of the offensive game and sometimes even the defensive game of breaking out of your own zone. I am going to shout out two people, and I think we're probably going to have pretty similar answers here. But Atana Crow, and for me as well, Austin Wallace. I haven't played with Austin Wallace. I've played with Atana for under him for Team Canada and with him for the Raiders last year, and he studies the game and he knows where those passes are, and he makes them better than I think anyone else in the East. And yeah, he's setting up assists. I can't remember the stats off the top of my head, but like he only played like day 2 of regionals, and he was in the leaderboard for most assists. Like he was within the top 5, and he played half the games. So like, I think that states pretty easy. Like, hey, like this guy has the ball in his hands. You should be worried about him, but you should be worried about the 3 other people on the field who are about to get that ball and shove it into your net. Austin Wallace, I've played with him. I played against him twice, I guess, or 3 times in Pan Ams. But honestly, I haven't played a West team in God knows how long, but the amount of film I've seen of him making no-look passes and making people look silly, you can't count it because he does it so damn often. But yeah, shout out to Austin Wallace, absolute crazy passer. I don't know how he does it. He looks like he has like eyes on the side and back and all over his head, but he's always able to make that pass and see those players. His vision is just absolutely elite.
Yeah, the exact same too. Basically for the same reasons. Like I've played with Atana, I played against Atana. Austin, maybe played against him once or twice, but definitely watched him at nationals. But yeah, both amazing passers. And like the thing with Atana too, like he does those head fakes as well, so you don't even know like where he's passing the ball sometimes. He just like knows where that person's going to be. He makes that long pass across the pitch, and somehow they catch it. But
Absolutely,
yeah, both great passes for sure.
Yeah, I honestly had the exact same team as well. But one other person that kind of came to mind when I was thinking about it was Liesel. I'm pretty sure she was a keeper at one point, wasn't she? For McGill.
I've mainly seen her as a chaser. I believe she's a rookie from what I saw. But yes, absolutely, absolutely insane passing especially for a rookie player. I can't remember off the top of my head all the game film, but like definitely a good shout out if she's ever played keeper at all. Insane passing.
For some reason I thought it like she played keeper at one point. I knew like I was pretty sure she was mostly chaser, but yeah, if she wants to be a keeper, I think she could easily be a keeper. I remember some of the passes like I don't know what the assist count was, but it doesn't really I don't think it really matters what the assist count really was really because like she was some of the passes that I saw her pull off was like I was like wow, that's pretty high end passing talent there. So yeah, shout out to Liesel.
I think it's also it's almost like hockey, right? Like you have the secondary assist, and like we don't. I don't have the ability to count that because I think I would go mad trying to count that for all the plays. But I think it speaks more like sometimes there's passes that are made that don't end up on a score sheet, and like if you watch film back and be like, oh, how do we break out of that situation so well? Sometimes it's a player that even if they're a rookie, they're making amazing passes, and if the ball's in their hands, they're absolute they're a threat. Just flat in. So, yeah. I'll let one of you guys start first with the close range shooting. So, as I mentioned before, this is basically anywhere right near the hoops. You could be coming in from the cut. You could be dunking it. You could be driving it. You could be basically within arm's reach of the hoop. So, however you guys kind of want to do that. Gabe or Nate, one of you guys want to take it first?
Sure. I've got a couple names. I'm not sure if you guys will have these as well, but I have, for one, Andrew Custers and 2, Guillaume Amelin. Both speedy keepers, tall. They have long reach, and they're able to cut through defenses when they need to get a goal to get their teams back into the game if they're down, or to kind of keep the momentum going. I've played against both of them. They're pretty hard to defend. So whenever they're driving in on you, it's you got to stop them pretty early. If not, they're gonna get to the hoops, and with their reach, they're able to dunk over your keeper or one of your wing chasers. So those are the 2 names that come to mind for that.
Yeah, that's a couple good shoutouts there. I think for me, I went with maybe not so much like the length advantage that Custers and Guillaume have. besides just being great athletes, it is a huge thing for dunking. But for me, I went with like more size, so I went Norbert Bueno. Like, I think that's how you pronounce the last name.
Yeah.
And then Rico from we played for Val and others, but just like the two of them, just from like sheer size standpoint, they're able just to drive right through any defense. And I know, like I said, it'll be interesting to see with the 2-arm tackling how that affects things, which I think it'll probably limit how much like driving they're able to do consistently. Not that they won't keep doing it, but yeah, just from like a sheer like size standpoint and just the ability for them to drive right through like defenses and just terrorize the defenses, I think is kind of they kind of stand out in my mind as some of the dunking forces in quick game.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So I'm gonna go with we're gonna have completely different answers this time, which is great. I'm gonna go like a blend between you two. So Nate, you went with length. Gabe, you went with strength. So I went with Wyatt Frischier of Vancouver Stormcrows, formerly of UBC. I think he was the coach of UBC still last year. And Denver Staines, formerly of Guelph Griffins, from last year, like the year before this one. I think looking at those, they kind of combine. They're both big guys. Like they are 6'3", 6'4" each easily. Strength wise, they're there. Length wise, they're there. I think in my mind they blend both that because I know from what I've watched from out west, Wyatt has great hands around the hoops. He's like soft hands, and I don't know like the competition in the West. I haven't had the chance. I would love to come out west and play you guys, but come on, QC, like hook me up. I need a game or two. And Denver Staines, the amount of time I've played with him and learned from him, one of the things is not only having good soft hands around the hoop for like making those spin moves, but it's also having the footwork to execute it. And I think with Guillaume especially, I see that of like you can be in front of someone, but that might not matter because someone can outstep you, someone can make a move that breaks your ankles, and game over. So I'm gonna say Wyatt and Denver. Awesome. Gabe, do you want to start out with mid-range shooting?
Yeah, sure. For this one, it was kind of tough. Like because mid range, like we kind of define mid range as like between like the keeper zone, right?
Everything inside the keeper zone, not like within.
That's not a dunk.
Yeah, that's not a dunk.
Okay. Yeah. So for this one, I was debating putting him as dunking, but he doesn't really dunk, but he has the ability to drive to the point where most times he drives and then he like avoids contact and he's able to shoot and score. Just because of how fast he is, I'm gonna go Jeremy Barros-Belko for this one. Just because, like I said, he has the ability to drive, and don't get me wrong, he still dunks. But I think his greatest asset is his ability to drive, draw on defenders, and then he's able to either dish or like have a quick shot and score.
Yeah.
And that's just based on his pure speed. So I would say for me, he probably takes my like mid range crown.
Yeah.
Nice. For me, I'm going all based off floaters. So I have chosen Wes Mackey, the Wes Mackey.
Oh.
And as well as Etana Crow. I remember either watching from the sidelines or playing against them. They always like drive in and then they kind of take that floater before they enter the keeper zone. Because sometimes, seeing that they're bigger in size, they're most defenses will probably think they're going to try to break through defense and try to dunk the ball, but they have that ability to take that floater from the keeper zone and usually have a pretty good goal scoring rate from that. So I kind of just went with the floaters for that one because mid range, like you said, Gabe, it's a bit hard to pick.
Yeah.
Based off kind of the shot. Either it's like usually you see either long shots or dunks. So the mid range is a bit of a tough one to judge there.
So Nate, I'm right there with you, and all respect to Wes Mackey, he does have a really solid mid range shot. I'm going with Etana Crow here because, hot take, in my personal opinion, Etana's floater is the single most deadly weapon in all of QC within the last 2 years.
Okay.
I personally think that floater alone, it has it's embarrassed me how many times, and the amount of other people I've seen it embarrass, it's almost league wide. Because obviously, like we said, mid-range isn't super popular in this league. We don't use it as much as we probably should. We're probably just all bad. But what it comes down to is that mid-range shot isn't purely for the intensive purposes of, oh, I'm just going to score every time off it. It is the complete weapon of it throws everyone off and doesn't allow anyone to figure out what his next move will be. Even if you guess it, you're not going to stop it. Because if your momentum's going up and he catches you on that, he's around you. He's a bigger guy, but he will get around you every single time. And I honestly think that weapon, like, alone isn't enough to, like, score at the top rate, and I think people have stopped it. But what it's set up is more valuable than the shot itself. The threat of it is more scary than the shot. So, yeah, that's my hot take. So, Latana, please teach me your little juke move into the floater, because I need it. I need it in the arsenal. Cool.
Just long shot.
Long shot.
Oh, I got one. So.
Nate, you got a good one? Seem excited. You got two?
Okay, so both of these players I played with on the Ottawa Otters. In my opinion, they have, like, these two are definitely, in my opinion, the two best long shooters in the game of Quidditch, at least in Canada. I have Cody and Caden. I remember from Nationals in particular, I think it was either the semifinal or the final game. There's an example with Caden. He literally charged down the pitch. There's a beater on the opposing team with the bludger basically getting ready to beat him. At the moment he stepped past half, he was probably even like just within his half. He took a shot, went straight through the hoop. It didn't like bounce off anyone. It didn't get blocked or anything. And he just had like 100% confidence in his shot. Just ran up the pitch, took the shot, scored, and then basically acted like it was nothing.
So he went full Dame Lillard, basically.
Basically, yeah.
It was not a good shot selection, Caden. We were calling you out. That wasn't a great shot selection, but it doesn't matter because he makes those shots.
Like for most people, it would be a terrible shot selection, but for him, he has a pretty good scoring average on it, where it's like just take it. if he shoots 50%, just keep taking them. And Cody, a similar thing as well. When you had either one on the pitch, you always had to be aware of that long shot coming from outside of the keeper zone. So it was always fascinating for me to see that, because I'm not someone who does long shots, but for them, it's basically like second nature to them.
Nate?
Yeah, no, I was gonna say, like, for Caden, I think it was Mo Waj's name. He like if you watch back the videos from Nationals, thankfully shout out Shaggy for saving those videos. But if you go back and listen to some of the commentary, Mo Waja calls Caden dead shot like the whole tournament. I don't know. It started in day one, but like I didn't really hear why he was calling him dead shot, and then the second, like, he just kept going with it, and it was that shot, and I think it was a semifinal, because we were up by like two or three, and then like that shot, like when he scored that goal, is when like Valhalla took a timeout because we were up by like 4 or 5 at that point, and it was just a huge like momentum swing for us. Yeah, I had Cade and I also had Cody as well. Like you said, Nate, like it was like he hit it bang on the nail when he said just like you have to be aware of it. Like even if Cody doesn't pull up a long shot in the game, it's something you have to be aware about on defense, because he has the ability to pull off a long shot at any point. And then I put Alex Crawley as well. I know he's more of a chaser now, but when he first started playing, he was a keeper, and I remember like he had like when he first, I remember the first tryout actually. He pulled up a long shot, and people were like, "Whoa, like that's crazy!" And I think I'm pretty sure he said like, "Oh, can I do that?" And everyone was just like, "Yes."
I call him Ovechkin because of that.
Yeah. And it was crazy. He saw that was in first year. He's like I said, he's kind of switched more to chaser now, but when he was the keeper, and he still hasn't long. It's not like he doesn't have a good long shot anymore. But so definitely shouting out Alex Crawley as well for long shot ability.
Awesome. No, I'm right there with you guys. I gotta go with Caden. I think there's a lot of players out there who can make a long shot, and I think like out west we see a lot more shooting. Off the top of my head, I can't list someone to be in my mind like the very top, because their level is I think on average better than the East for shooting. So shout out to the West, but I think Caden alone, he not only has that arm and the accuracy, he'll miss once in a while, but he has the confidence in himself to take that shot every time. And even if he misses once in a while, the threat of it, like Atanas Florida that I mentioned, is so deadly because every team can't give him space. Second he has space, he has that opportunity to make that shot. And there's a good chance it's going in. So, yeah, I'm going to agree with you guys. Caden is my long shot recipient, I guess.
And I was gonna throw in there as well. It wasn't really counted as a long shot, but I would say a long trick shot. I don't know if you guys remember, or if you guys saw it, but I don't know if Andrew Custer's pulled off that like crazy like kick shot or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
You guys remember that? Like that was, oh my god, that was insane. I'll give a shout out to that. I won't. I mean, and of course, like I said, anyone could have a long shot, and Custer's is a great example of someone who could pull off a long shot. But I just remember that one play and being like, "Damn, that's pretty impressive."
Yeah, that's crazy. I remember that. I remember I was on another pitch and I was just like, someone just like, "Oh my god, did you see what Custer's did?" I'm like, "No, I'm way over here. There's no chance." So like, he cooked it from like almost like 3/4 of the way to half, and it went right in. I'm like, no way. That didn't happen. Watch the film back. It's just insane. Absolutely insane. Awesome. So let's go into individual defense first. So I think we defined this, at least in my mind, was let's say you're 1-on-1. You're the keeper and you're standing there and you need to take that last person down. And there's a player coming for you. This is 1-on-1 defense. It's individual. You can't rely on your teammates. It's not positioning. It's just how can you put yourself in the way, stop the shot, make the tackle, strip the ball, whatever you want to do. And I'll start it off. And I honestly think the amount of times he stopped me, puts him here purely, it's Andrew Custer's for me. His reflexes are insane. He can tackle me. I can tackle him. There are big players who can lay massive hits in this league, and that's awesome. Like individual defense, yeah, that's crazy. John Nicholson, the guy's thighs are huge, but I think Custer's reflexes for me put him like that next level because like if you want to try making that shot, he will go full soccer goalie and just dive out and tips of his fingers make that block and send that shot off course. So in my mind, I'm going Andrew Custers.
Yeah, the same for individual defense. Just I remember playing against Valhalla. Was it the Oxbridge tournament? I was going down trying to get a goal. I think it was like Custers on defense, and then no, I think it was just like basically me. I think 1-on-1. And I moved one away, and he basically reached in for the ball, got his hand on it, and able to strip it out my hand, even though it's tucked in pretty well. But just alone, like basically he's confident in skills, whether it's going for the save or going for the strip or even the tackle. Like he'll put his body on the line to make the stop for his team. Like he's willing to do whatever it takes on defense in that regard to get the ball back for his team, and he's pretty good at one-on-one defense in that regard. My second keeper I selected. This is kind of based on intimidation factor. Spencer Milligan, just because how big he is. I really don't ever want to like go 1-on-1 with him. I'd rather stay away. So if it's like me on a breakaway with him, either I'm gonna try to wait for support to come to either make like an alley pass or something, or take the mid range or the long shot, even though those are not my best kind of shots, just because I don't want to get into contact with them. So
wide right, man, go for that wide right, like stay on the outside.
So those are my two.
Nice. Yeah. So I had Spencer as well. Like I said, just from intimidation factor. And then I went with I'm gonna include him because we included his name, Guelph keeper.
Denver States.
Denver, yes.
Yeah.
Plan to include him just because he would have technically counted as part of
Well,
the same season just because of injuries. He wasn't really as active that year. But Big Matt,
yeah.
Mr. Matt Askett, I remember like watching videos of him, and I looked like when I first started playing, I looked up to him with some of his tackling and some of his ability to like just be super clutch on D. Yeah, so shout out Big Matt. He was like super clutch on D. And then other than Spencer, we'll go female representative. We'll say Lydia. We said that she's super clutch in her ability as a keeper, and like we said, probably one of the best keepers in Canada. And I think a big reason and a big part of why she's become such a good or important player for Queens, and just like hopefully in the future with Team Canada, is just her ability to be so strong defensively. I think she's really improved her ability to tackle and not be afraid to take down people twice, 3 times her size. So shout out Lydia for individual D.
Absolutely. Lydia, you still haven't taken me down though. You hung on, but that hasn't happened yet. So next time. Awesome. Let's move on to team defense. So, like we said, individual defense is 1-on-1. You got to make that stop. Team defense is how you work in that system. So obviously there's plenty of ways. There's 2-2. There's hoop defense. It could just be like mark coverage, like you're just covering player to player for like individual assignments. There's plenty of other things that teams do and have done down in the States. I know Texas I think it's a Cav ball or there's a Cav defense that they do. Super complicated, but it's like next level 2-2, and it's just super amazing. But yeah, team defense, keeper rather leading, like using their defensive expertise or coordinating or doing whatever. Usually a keeper is that role. So let's hear your picks, guys.
So for this one, I went with like for team defense. I think it's hard because I think it's someone you have to kind of play with, just because like you have to be kind of part of the system and understand how they work within the system. So for me, I went with someone I played with at Queens, and just because of his ability to communicate, because I'm a quieter guy, so being able to like work with someone who communicates and someone I'm kind of on the same wavelength with, something that's really important for me in being strong team defensive player. So I went with John Nicholson. He could have arguably been a candidate for top individual defense as well, as we kind of mentioned, but just from a team defense perspective, just because I know that when he's a keeper, and if I'm a wing chaser or even if I'm a point chaser, like his ability to communicate and kind of be a quarterback of defense is I would say it's kind of underrated in the league. So I would say for me, he gets my team defense crown.
I'll jump in next. I kind of have a different one that I think you'll take, Nate. So I'm going to go at West again, and I'm going to go with Wyatt Bashir again. So once again, haven't played against him, haven't played with him. But, I played against him, I guess, in Pan Ams, but that was like 2 games. But I think what we see at West is very different because they use their hoop defense so much more than we do. Like it's almost like common tactic is hoop defense first, like mark defense second. Like that's kind of the order of things. And I think hoop defense has its flaws, and I think especially with like the new kind of MOQ tap in at mid hoop kind of really puts a hole in it. But I feel like what Wyatt has shown from being like that quarterback on defense for the Storm Crows 2 years ago or like the previous year, he's able to galvanize that system and make it so much stronger than what it usually will be. And I think like locking that down, and when Storm Crows took that bronze medal game and almost took the semifinals from Guelph in 2018, that hoop defense was stifling so many teams because they didn't know how to deal with it. And I think Wyatt was the real reason behind it.
Yeah, so for me, I chose someone else. So I picked Kyle Ross for a team defense. Main reason is because he's the keeper I played most with on pitch throughout my 5 or 6 year Quidditch career now. So this kind of relates back to what I said earlier about leadership, like on pitch. He understands the game at a high level where he understands opposing teams' offensive strategy. So he knows how the team defensively should set up, whether it's man-to-man, whether it's 2-2, whether that's coming out of a timeout or on the fly. He's able to direct players or chasers in particular, like where to go, who to guard. Like if the usually I play point defender, point chaser defender. So if I get tapped out, he'll tell someone go step up on point, or he'll tell me to return back to point. So I already know what my assignment is as I'm going back to hoops. So he's really good at just letting everyone know. Basically being like a floor general on the pitch, letting everyone know where there should be, what their assignments are, and yeah. So that's my pick for team defense.
Communication is key. I think yeah. Honestly, like what you said, Gabe, like you have to play with someone to understand what they do and how they work. But like, I think seeing good communicators, I think you don't even have to play with them to know someone's a great communicator. I think like Kyle's a great example of that. Last but not least, let's get into our kind of wild card category. So clutch. So you can kind of define it however you want. Do one of you guys want to take it off first, or do you guys want me to go?
Who's clutch? I can't pick myself.
Yeah, this one's tough just because like clutch is a pretty. It's not broad, but it's like it really depends on kind of how you interpret it. Like, is clutch your ability to kind of be impactful every single time you come on, or is it more impactful like within a given setting when like the pressure's on, like you're like desperately needed? I guess that's kind of how I interpreted it. So, for me, I went out west with this one, and I said Indiana Nickel. He was huge for the Storm Crows when they finished third. I think, and not just from his like keeper perspective. I think you can even like just because he's so versatile in his ability to play in multiple positions. I think that just being able to do that in and of itself makes him clutch. But just like every single time I saw him come on the pitch, that tournament, he was just, you could tell he was going to make an impact. And especially when the pressure was on, he just found a way to, whether it was like, I don't know, like making a big defensive stop or creating offense or just scoring himself. You could tell he's going to have an impact every single time he had the ball, or even when he didn't have the ball, he's just, like I said, creating stops on defense. So I'll shit out the West and go Indiana Nickel as my most clutch.
Nice.
I think I'm going to go with 2 for this one for 2 different reasons. So in terms of like, you need a goal, or you need a goal. The game's close. I remember it was either it was regionals or nationals. I think it was nationals in Oshawa, Guelph versus Valhalla, 2018. I remember in the game, Valhalla got like so many cards where it was basically like a keeper, a beater, and a chaser on their side, and then Guelph, I think, had their full lineup out. And I remember Tana, he basically just like killed off the penalties by himself. He was going up the pitch, going down the pitch. He even scored, I think, a goal or two. And like one of them was like a long shot where somehow a team that was down that many players was still able to be offensive in that game and make an impact offensively. So just in terms of like high pressure situations, I'd say he's definitely a clutch player where you can put him out there and you can basically do whatever he's asked or whatever the team needs. And then a second pick, I went with John Keats from the Manatees. I played with him for a year. Based on the fact that he is a versatile player, he can play keeper, he can play beater. I think he seeked for the Manatees a few games. So he definitely can, basically a Swiss Army knife. He can play any position that the team needs him to. He has experience playing Quidditch for so many years that he doesn't, the pressure doesn't get to him. And he's able to do what the team needs or what the captain asks of him. So that was my second pick in terms of being most clutch.
Absolutely. So I'm gonna go with 2 as well. Honestly, all those picks absolutely solid. I'm right there with you. So my first one is gonna be Andrew Custer's. This one I'm just gonna keep it simple. He plays some of the biggest minutes, some of the biggest moments, scores most of the points. It's hard to like say with his track record and his experience and what he's done that what he's had, like what he does, isn't clutch. It's hard to argue that because he shows up every time. As long as he's not injured, he's on that pitch and he's kicking some butt, flat out. My other pick is slightly a different direction because I don't think they've really burst onto the stage in the last couple of years or so, last year or two. And I'm going to go with Guillaume Emelin. First time I played with Guillaume, I was just kind of like, wow. Like the wow factor of the speed, the passing, the smarts, the defense, like it's all there. And I think he can definitely work within a system and become part of that team and blend in and make his move and do whatever is kind of needed. But at the same time, if you like look at the Montreal Flamingos from this past year, their roster was small, like flat out. They didn't have a ton of players. Some players were in, some players were out. They had injuries, so on. I think if we had a way and a like an actual stat to track how much field time someone has, Guillaume leads the league. Like he is on so much, he's scoring a ton, he's doing everything to get his team a chance at that win. And like I think in that clutch moments, if you need someone to come up and shoulder that burden, I'd have no problems picking Guillaume to do that for me. Because I honestly believe he can really step up and be that person. Yeah.
Sure.
So, that's all of them. I kind of got a surprise question for you boys. What do you think's the what makes like the best keeper? Like what obviously we kind of went through like the categories of like what are these kind of big things that make a player great or a player can excel at and make them a good keeper. But what do you think really stands out in your minds when you think like there's that god keeper out there who's just game breaking, leads everything? What do you think really like one or two things that you think, not necessarily even those categories, but what can you like define as something that like I love playing with this person or this person makes it easier to play or I know I can rely on them? Like, is there anything that comes to mind for you guys?
One thing for me, I think we all touched on it at some point for whatever category we were talking about. But basically, communication on the pitch. It's easy to play with keepers who understand the game, understand what's going on, and able to be like the floor general of the team on offense and defense because they see the pitch from the best point of view, at least on defense. They have everyone in front of them. And of course, being vocal. If you're someone who's new to the game, if you're not entirely sure where you should be, who you should be guarding, they're able to kind of be that voice in your ear from behind and kind of let you know, kind of guide you verbally on the pitch where you should be, and it kind of helps you out as well and to understand your defensive setup. And of course, their experience. I find a lot of keepers, I guess over time, are just some of the most well-known players in the league. They usually score a good amount of goals, so they lead their teams by example as well. So I'd say, communication and like leading your team by example.
I love the term floor general. It's such like a very like that's your leader right there. Like that's who's barking orders. And I think beaters obviously play a big role in like dictating the game plan. But I think like if you have that person in the back looking over and like watching the entire pitch and understanding what's going on, like I want that floor general. I want someone to lead the way, and like they might not have to be the biggest offensive contributor. They might not be the biggest person, the best defense. They might they don't have to be amazing at one thing, but being that leader and being that kind of honestly floor general is probably my buzzword for it. That's to me is just super important.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I would say like leaders, the pretty important to have. It's honestly a necessity, I'd say. I think a good way to I can't speak today. A good way to think about it and describe it is like a keeper should be someone that can make those around them better. So yes, like you're as a keeper, you have to be able to score, which I think is another really important thing as well. Just looking at the statistics, like from that you did, Bryan, like I noticed that a lot of like almost all, not almost all, but like a lot of the goals, majority of the goals come through the keeper just because they're like the quarterback of a lot of plays, and oftentimes they're having to drive through, and sometimes they just can't dish off, and they're having to be a little bit more selfish, I guess. But then again, I think it also comes down to just because they're usually people that have been in the game a little bit longer, so they have more experience. And kind of the team relies on them a little bit more just because, like I said, they have that experience. But I think the best keepers in the game are, like I said, the ones that make those around them better. So they're able to, because as a keeper, you're gonna have all eyes on you essentially, because it's like you said, and we've kind of talked about, you are the leader of the team. But if you're able to kind of dish out to other players, kind of single word players that can make cuts and find open space, and you as a keeper are able to like make yourself the target so that when those players are open, you can dish them and they can score. I think that's really, really important, and I think that's what separates like the top keepers from like the good keepers in the league, is just that ability to, like I said, make those people around you better. So that's kind of my.
Absolutely. No, that's yeah. I'm right there with you. Like I guess the best term synergy. Like yeah, the whole is more powerful than the sum of its parts, and like yeah, I think that really kind of dictates victory for a lot of games, at least in Canada. Anyways, that kind of wraps up our segment for today. Look out on our Instagram and on CQA. We're going to be trying posting maybe a form of some kind, and kind of maybe come up with some sort of award for what the general public views the best keeper in the league for this year or the last couple of years, and kind of get some recognition out there. I know we have the final Canadian like cup, the I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but the actual trophy, and I feel like getting some recognition to certain players who deserve it, or maybe who don't, maybe not get the spotlight, or maybe get more recognition. Love to hear it from you guys in the comments, and yeah, you guys have anything to add?
Nope. So I guess we're doing a chaser one next and a beater one.
Yeah, let's. I think that's the plan. If we can get a kind of chaser kind of line up and get a few people on, hopefully some beaters, because we don't know what the heck's happening in the beater game half the time. We're just told to run. And then I think my general idea with this was I wanted to get some snitches on to dictate who the best seekers in the league were, because seeker's got to catch a snitch, and if the snitch says, "Hey, you're good," I feel like that's probably the best measure to dictate who's actually good. Yeah. Nate, you want to plug our Instagram real quick?
Yes. So our Instagram, if you're not following us, is CQQC_podcast on Instagram, all lowercase letters. Since we're back for season 2, we'll definitely be more active as the season goes on, and we're gonna, like Bryan said, we're gonna post either there, or probably both there, and on the CQA page on Facebook to kind of get you guys' opinion, to get you guys engaged in this topic as well. And you can either agree with us on some of the topics, or disagree, or have completely different people, especially for West players, since we're not the most familiar with them. You guys, especially you out West, you would have a better chance of determining some of the positions or some of the roles that they fit best in. So, yep.
Feel free, call me dumb. Don't I'm not saying this to me for all of us, but call me dumb or make fun of our takes. Like, if you have a better opinion for someone who deserves recognition, shout it out. That person deserves it. Yeah. Anyways, that's all. Hopefully we're not too late between our next podcast, but thanks for tuning in. You guys have anything to add?
Oh yeah, that's good. I will see everyone in the next one.
Awesome.
See you guys.
See you later.
Why does the past always seem like it's better? Why can't we make it last forever?